What's up, guys? Welcome, everybody, to the first ever episode of the Hotdrop podcast, where I'll be sitting down with a lot of interesting PUBG personalities throughout the year. We have some players coming up. We will have some coaches, a manager here or there, maybe a caster, all that sort of stuff, and maybe a few special guests sometime down the line. And yeah, feedback's always super appreciated. This will grow as it goes. It's the first podcast I'm ever doing on my own. And yeah, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about the episode. So stick around till the end. If you have any feedback, any sort of input, that's greatly appreciated. If you want to support the podcast, all that sort of information is at the end. For this first episode, I sat down with BatulinS, the IGL of Twisted Minds, some of the brightest minds, I think, in the European PUBG scene. Talk a little bit about PGC. We talked a little bit about sort of the Hotdrops debacles that we had on PGC. We talked a bit about roster moves, a bit about what's happening in the future in 2023. And then we had a few fun bits towards the end as well. Not going to waste any more of your time. Enjoy the episode. All right, welcome everybody to the first episode of the Hotdrop podcast. Still sort of sorting out that name, not 100% sure how that's going to go. And as you can see, I am joined by the wonderful BatulinS. How are you doing, Sasha?
Hello, I'm doing well. Okay. I just came back from a long holiday after PGC. I feel really, I have a lot of energy right now. Yeah, so we're gonna celebrate New Year with my family, and then we're gonna start working. So yeah,
Gonna start working again. So the way we wanted to do this is we want to talk a little bit about PGC, and then we'll talk a little bit about roster Royale. We'll talk about next year, so going chronologically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the first question is, it's a bit of a hard one, because you guys, you came in third, which a lot of teams would be more than happy about, and you're probably happy in some sense, but you're probably also, you wanted to win and you got so close as well. So if you just want to sort of, talk a little bit how, when you think about PGC, how do you feel? What's your sort of summary at the end?
Okay, so talking about PGC, to be honest, it was a very, very, very hard event. I mean, it was very hard for our team to come, like as a full roster because of but we came there and we felt like super big confidence in our game. And I guess it was the first tournament ever, I mean, PGC tournament for us, where we knew that we are stronger than others and we deserve to win the tournament. And we were actually one game close, like, so if we would like play a bit slightly better in the last day, we would win the PGC, which would mean that our dominance in Europe in a lot of tournaments will lead us to like actually the first place in a PGC, and that would mean everything for us. Yeah. But we didn't do it, and the only thoughts about it is that we're gonna work hard next year. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, it's just rough, right? Because it's literally just the last day where Navi kind of popped off completely. You guys fell off a little bit, and then suddenly, instead of being in first, you're being in third, and it's just not a nice end to it. But then if you think about it, right, like third best team in the world, probably super close to being the best PUBG team in the world. That's pretty sick still, I feel like.
Yeah, it feels good. I mean, when you are on the top of like the whole world ranking, you feel it's hard to explain. Like for us, the third place is actually a lose. Yeah, like not like the win or something. So because we already were third before, and now it was time to win it all. But still, it's okay. It's okay. It just means that we have to work harder next year. And as you know, our team is best known by like being hard workers.
Yeah.
So it's our life, and I think it's even good for us. Yeah.
I actually, I had a question for that. I wanted to ask that later. So a lot of people would say that you are the hardest working guys, and so you would agree to that, right? That you put in more time than a lot of other teams.
I mean, there are a lot of teams who have a lot of hardworking players. Yeah, I can't say like it would sound like egoistic that I would say that we are like working harder than anyone else, but definitely we are really putting a lot of effort in like our work, and yeah, so yeah.
I think it's always, for me, it's always crazy because I feel like there's a lot of teams and players in EU especially that maybe aren't, they're putting time in, obviously. They're professional players, but they're not putting in as much time as some of the other regions, especially sort of the Asian regions where they have way more support and live in team houses and whatnot. But still, when it comes to like a global event, that doesn't mean that Asia dominates or anything like that. So I think it's super interesting how in PUBG it feels like if you're putting in the right work and you're really talented, you can still somehow overcome that. Because in most sports, you would say, well, the teams that get the most support, they get the most funding, they get the best training, they should be the best in the end. But it doesn't really work out like that for some reason.
Yeah.
All right.
That's true.
Coming back to PGC real quick. 2 things I want to talk about. One thing I couldn't help but noticing. Do you feel like the international teams are not ready for the sort of the mountaintop playstyle as much as the European teams? Because I feel like there was a lot of situations where like an Asian team or something would just not be ready for it at all. Do you think that does it feel different to you in being an international lobby than in an EU lobby?
Oh yeah, sure. International is much more easier to play because in European lobby, like for example, when we join scrims, yeah, I feel like every time I go on the top of the mountain, the whole server is just having fun shooting at me,
Yeah,
and like everyone knows about me,
exactly.
like because they're like prepared for it. And international LAN tournament means that few teams maybe they know about it, maybe sometimes they try to play against it, but mostly other teams have their like own knowledge about
Mm-hmm.
what they should do on the map, and sometimes they're not ready. Like I
Yeah,
had a few games when I was on the top of the hill, and some Chinese teams, like big huge players, yeah, they were just coming close to me, scouting, and like staying just like under me. I was killing them without like any kind of help from their teammates. They didn't even know about it.
yeah.
And but like yeah, it surprised me sometimes, but yeah, that's how it is. So I definitely agree with you that Asian teams, not like only Asian teams,
Yeah,
I mean
international
like
teams.
yeah,
Yeah,
international teams, they're just not prepared for it. I don't know why, but that's how it is.
I would sort of like to say, like it's probably just you can know about it on paper, but then knowing how to play against it takes a lot more time, right? But
Oh
still,
yeah.
there's definitely some teams where you would 100% expect them to know, but then in the middle of the game they might forget about it, or because they're just not used to getting punished like that. Whereas the EU teams, like you play so many games versus the exact same teams in these PCS finals and stuff, you just know everything in and out. Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. The one more thing about PGC, and I'll leave you alone after that, is you were super ready coming into the event to start hot dropping apparel, because you said you prepared for it for a long time. You were ready for it.
Yeah.
Obviously, they are insane individuals. They want to drop power grid. You want to drop power grid. It didn't really play out, right? Because they never got there.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of other teams that again struggled with their hot drops, right? You're looking at a Sonics, you're looking at in the past Team Liquid as well, who sort of threw a whole tournament to hot drop. Why do you think it's worth so much when you just have a few games on an international tournament? Why do you think it's worth hot dropping for your spot so much?
I mean, it's like in PUBG, yeah, in the PUBG history, I would say it's the most controversial question. Yeah, like you can always discuss it in any different ways of is it worth it, like who is actually a stronger team, like on the Hotdrops, like does the individual skills decide who gonna win the spot, who gonna like stay, yeah. But it's really hard to like answer on this question in just like one way, that we are stronger, it's worth it for us because we're a better team and that's all. No, it doesn't work like that. I just feel like especially like the, I think there is like a little difference between like maybe Sonics, for example, Liquid, yeah, and for example us and Navi, yeah. It's also like I can't say it like with a 100% confidence that we are like different. We have different mentality, but I feel like, for example, CIS teams, they are more close to Asian teams with their mentality, and they can win the spot just because of it. I would even say that winning a spot is more about your mentality, and that's why we were ready and confident to fight for it, because we knew that we are not only prepared like as a in game, yeah, like individually, like with our strategies or something. We were ready in our heads to fight for the spot. Yeah, and we also had experience with both Tanawa and MCG, like in the previous PGC. So for us, it's like, I don't know. It's even like for us, it's even fun to fight for the spot. I understand that maybe in the grand final of the PGC, it's not smart. Yeah. But we were ready for a fight, at least in the beginning stages. Yeah. So winners bracket, group stage, we would try to fight and see if we gonna win or
so
not.
if Pero would have made it to finals and they would have come, what would you have done? Let's say you didn't have a chance to fight them before, you know? Maybe you qualify through a different bracket, you end up in the finals, Pero is there, you're there.
Okay, we would go for our spots anyway. Yeah. And like if they would win us, maybe like I don't know how much we had, like 5 or 6 games a day.
So
20 games.
5 a
So
day,
five a day,
Miramar,
yeah.
2 Miramar, depending on which
Okay,
day.
so for example, they would go power grid and apartments with us, yeah. In the first day, and they would win us 4-1, for example, yeah. I think we would leave the spot and try to win the tournament without the spots. I mean, it would be hard because we would skip one day, but like teams like 17 or Navi, they had like the worst days ever. Like on some of the days, yeah. So it means
possible.
like, yeah, it's possible still to win the tournament, and yeah. But if we would win them, we would definitely not go away. So yeah.
You spoke about mentality before. I feel like in a longer run, right, when it's not an international final, the team, it's pretty much, if you stay, you can't win if the other team stays, because then you're both losing, right? So it's if even if you win, let's say 4-1, but then maybe in the 4 games you win, half of them you have 2 players. Sometimes a third team pulls up and third parties you and kills another one or pops your tires and stuff like that. So just if the other team stays, you can't really win either, right? So it's kind of a weird thing in PUBG where if a team comes to hot drop you, that really hurts your game. And if they keep coming, that keeps hurting your game. So it's kind of like teams can kind of grief you in that sense, right? So it's such a tricky thing to deal with when you have a team like, I remember you guys were dropping on the apartment roofs. We had DA with 4 a.m. in their compound, stuff like that. It's such a hard thing to deal with, right? Because in the end, you kind of both lose if one team stays.
Exactly. That's why I said that it's very controversial.
Yeah.
And you never, like, you can never say like what is better to leave or to stay, because like you can say it's both bad for it's bad for both teams to go for the same spot, so you should better leave.
Yeah, but then it's only bad for you, right? Because then
like,
you're the one
it's bad
leaving.
for you.
Yeah.
And then you give like everything to this team
that
also like mostly the teams who are fighting are like for Pachinki, for the school. And as you know, the first team was Navi that were looting Minas and like near Pachinki. The second team was Pachinki Picado. The third team was Apartments and Power Grid.
Yeah.
So the three best teams, they were looting like actually together in the center. So to all the people who say that the spot is not like very important and you can win from any place of the map, yes, you can, but the central spots always are more stable. They give you much more opportunities, and if there is no like 10 Georgiapol circles in the same tournament, it would be hard for Georgiapol team to win it. So yeah, it's always like that. And for me, the Hotdrops is first of all about your mentality.
Yeah.
If you are mentally stronger, if you feel like you will win the tournament even with Hotdrops, another team might just go away.
Yeah.
Maybe not, maybe yes. It's
You never
always like
know.
a random thing.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's like absolutely the same thing with with the circles in PUBG. Maybe you're gonna come to PGC and you will have 20 games, and 15 games will shift away from you like every game, and it would be like super difficult to win the tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe it will like help you sometimes. You will get some good games. You will have you know, like when you win this very strong game with a lot of kills, your like confidence it is boosting too much, and you start like winning even like very difficult games in the tournament. So it's always about a bit of random, a bit of your confidence inside you, inside your teammates. Sometimes it's your individual skills. So yeah, that's what I think about it.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the vlog from the Sonics. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
How they sort of were trying to deal with the hot drop and the frustration, and they were like, oh my god, like these guys are the first time at PGC and they're just throwing away their tournament to hot drop us, and that, you know, when you're not really winning and when you don't really know what you're doing, it's so hard to deal with. It was super interesting to see how they were trying to cope with it, and even in between the teams they didn't know, because you said it's controversial. Some of them said we need to stay, others said we need to leave.
Yeah,
it's rough. It's not easy.
Yeah, like I would say that for example, if we take PGC in Korea, when we had fights with Danava and MCG, we were talking as a team. It was me, Lou, Perfectix, Spyro, Hirozen, Uba. Like we were all together speaking about should we hot drop here? What we're gonna do here? Should we try to close this team if they Danava or MCG in the some parts of the tournament? You know, like it was like weekly finals and so on, like weekly qualifiers. So every time through the whole tournament, we were talking about this instead of for example, have some training session. Yeah, like some trying to improve your individual or team skills. Yeah, we were talking only about hot drops.
Yeah.
So definitely this thing is very like, as we said, controversial.
Yeah.
For some teams who, for example, don't like to hot drop, it's even like worse to speak about it. They should like, okay, we leave. We try to play from different spots. Even if we didn't play before, we should better try to do it instead of even thinking about the hot drops with like Asian teams and so on. So yeah,
but then
that's how it is.
It's you kind of talk about this whole hot drop thing. You're like, well, everyone's losing, maybe we should leave. But as soon as you leave, everyone knows you left. And then next time you come to an event, people can say, well, we're looting Minas because we want Minas, and they left last time. So it's so rough. It's really not easy. I remember EB saying as well back in, what was that, 2019? He said, well, we spent the whole scrim sessions hot dropping. We spent the whole tournament hot dropping. We were not ready for the lobby. We didn't know anything about the other teams, like you just said. And just like that, you kind of ruined your tournament. But I think that's enough for PGC. I'll let us move on. I think third is still insane. I think it's rough because it's 20 games, one last day, right? You kind of can drop out, and Navi was just a little bit too good. But I think what a lot of people want to hear about and a lot of fans are really interested about right now is sort of the roster Royale thing. But it's probably fair to say you're not super involved with all the rumors and stuff, especially when it comes to EU West.
I would say yes. Yeah, I'm more like in Asian roster changes and so on.
Okay.
But yeah, but I'm ready to discuss everything.
All right.
So yeah, let's just go on and start.
First of all, do you see, let's say, the CIS teams? Do you see any big surprising changes there? Obviously, things you can talk about.
So we have us.
Yeah.
We have Navi.
Yeah.
Two best teams. Yeah, like and we will definitely know we don't have any changes. Yeah. So there is also QM.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about QM right now. I don't think they will change anything because I would say the result that they got in PGC is like 10 times more like higher than maybe they would expect.
Yeah.
It was actually super close to the prize places. I mean, the like top 4. And so if they don't change anything, it would mean that the best 3 teams from CIS region, they don't have any changes.
Yeah.
I know that, win or die. It's kind of interesting team because there are a lot of young players, but they are playing this game for a long time. And I think they changed their previous IGL, who was it? Gedrox. They took Wadas, he was playing in some NA teams for a long time, and he was like very young player. So I would definitely say that this team is interesting to watch in the next season. And yeah,
they were already they showed that they can dominate in PCS 7, right? They weren't consistent, but sometime in the group stages, I think it was, they were popping off.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there's like this whole, I feel like maybe that's just for me because I don't know the players as well, but I feel like there is so many just really strong individual players in CIS that skip around different teams a lot. I feel like there's a lot of roster moves, and then you have all these cracked individuals that sometimes they go to NA, sometimes they join an EU team, but a lot of the times it just goes in circles and there's like lots of roster moves. But what I also want to ask about is what I feel like there's a lot of people always saying, what's going on. It used to be Liquid, but now they're split, and people are asking what's going on with FaZe. Sort of, do they have to make a roster move? Are they going to stick together? Do they need to change IGL? All that sort of stuff. What do you think? Do you think they should continue? Do you think that team can perform really well at PGC next year, or do you think maybe they need to switch up?
I mean, first of all, it's important to mention about a new partnership program. That PUBG wants to like involve in PUBG esport system. And I can't say, like, I don't know who will be the partner teams for next year, but I can guess that FaZe might be one of them. Even with the very bad results of the roster for a long time, they still are like one of the oldest organization in PUBG and one of the biggest ones. And if they get a partnership, it would be definitely much more easier for them to qualify for PGC, like as for any other partnership team. So I know that they wanted to make changes. Maybe I even know more than most other people. But I can't say anything. I can't say anything about it. It's not like it's not public information. And like, do you know any players they are testing, or they still didn't do it anything?
I heard rumors, maybe rumors, not sure, that James got asked if he wanted to join them when Overpeakers announced they were splitting up. So basically, at that point, I assumed they wanted to make an IGL change. But also your reaction sounded very much like they would like an IGL. But the thing is, that doesn't even tell you the whole picture, because it's not like that means Gustav would be out of the roster. You could still have Gustav play as a normal player. He's completely fine individual, I think. And the main thing for me is I look at that roster and I'm not even sure who I would change. I feel like they need a change because they never really perform. They always feel like stuff doesn't really work out. But I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know who to change because I feel like all the players have their individual like strengths. I think Diggory's been really, really, really strong. I think Fex on good days is absolutely insane. 80 is like the least talked about player, but sometimes he's absolutely cracked. So it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's actually not easy. And also, like you said about James, like maybe he was invited to face, but I think he was playing for Heroic in the previous like little tournament. Like
that was back in the day. Now he's I think he's pretty much confirmed on Heroic, I feel like.
Okay, yeah. So and like if you would say that James is joining FaZe Clan as IGL, I would say it's interesting. Yeah, I know James. For me, it's like individually for me, he's maybe the best player of all time in Europe. I mean, it's controversial. Like Uba is also I mean, one of the best IGLs and one of the best players because I know his personality for a long time and he's a very hardworking person.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like one of the most important things about the guy, who, if he's like very hardworking player for a long time, and as well he's experienced guy.
Yeah.
So for me, James would be a very nice add to any team.
I agree. I think someone sent me a list. Someone made a list recently of like all the free agents and roster that could form and stuff, and they had James at the top of that list. And especially when you're only looking at free agents, I think that's pretty reasonable, like completely. The one thing that sort of is a question mark for me is I feel like the Overpeakers or Team Liquid playstyle wasn't super consistent most of the time. They were always that kind of team that goes very aggressive early game. They have 0-point games a lot and stuff like that. So when you put that down to the IGL, then I'm not sure if he's really the top IGL. But just because he can IGL, and I think he's good, and he's also I think he's a really, really good individual player. He's super smart. He's good with utility. He's good with close range. So, even if he wasn't IGL, he would still be a really, really good pickup for most of these teams. And I think what I end up talking about with some friends is that if you have all the individual skills and you have the IGL skills, but what really, really matters is sort of the mentality, right? Is you can't play on a team with someone that you don't want to be on a team with. And if you're on a team with someone and you feel like the guy isn't putting the time in, he's always playing, I don't know, League of Legends and then that doesn't work either. So like, I feel like that is super, super important. And he's definitely like, he's grinding, he's hardworking, and he puts in the boring work too. Like I think you do as well in like custom games, checking out stuff, checking out circles, all that kind of stuff. Not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people go that deep and do the boring work. A lot of people grind the game, but it's not really the same. But yeah, that thing about, do you agree? Do you feel like the player in game is one thing, but the guy out of the game is massive too, no?
Of course, it's the guy outside of the game is even sometimes it's more important than in game. Because you can make it's much easier to make from a good guy in real life being a good player inside the game than making a good guy inside the game to make him like comfortable person to speak, to work together in real life. So definitely like this.
It's gonna be exciting. I think the plan is to do like one episode per month. Maybe we'll have James on for the next one. He'll probably have all the gossip about all the roster moves because he's like, I feel like every Overpeakers player is involved in everything right now. So We'll see.
To be honest, like if you would invite him,
Yeah.
would be a very good present for me for New Year.
Yeah.
Because I really want to see him speaking about
Yeah.
his thoughts. Maybe now after like all, I don't know, 4 years in Liquid, yeah, he can tell a lot of things
Yeah.
about what he have been through, like how he did, like what lessons did he learn from it, like how was the whole like his life through the last 4 years. And
True.
for me it would be very interesting, like
I'll write
very
that down.
interesting,
I'll
yeah.
write those questions down for him.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about next year. So we have the roadmap announced. We don't really know a whole lot yet. Maybe you know more. But all we know is there's going to be some regional events. And there's going to be PGS, where the partners are invited, right? And then we have PGC and we have PNC. So basically, it's kind of the same situation we had last year, except the partners aren't getting invited to PCS. They're getting invited to PGS.
PGS,
and
yeah.
that should make it fairly easy for them to qualify the Worlds. And also, we spoke about it with Rostam earlier. That should make it pretty easy for the partner teams to pick exactly the players they want, right? Every player wants to be guaranteed PGS. Every player wants to go to Worlds. It's going to be really interesting because, like you said, we don't really know yet. A lot of people are assuming FaZe, maybe Na'Vi. But it's not even confirmed that it's 2 teams, right? They said roughly 2 teams or something like that. So it's gonna be really interesting times. But I think maybe you agree. Overall, that new lineup, that new roadmap seemed like a good change. If you put everything together, it seemed pretty nice, no?
Yep. I definitely agree with you on like that. It's like a maybe next step to have a very long term, like interesting ecosystem, like esports system, because all these 8 partnership organizations should have their own skins, right? And that's what we were talking about for years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely gonna be hard for all the teams outside of this like partnership program, because all the money, all the like like all the invites, so more fans, more people can see you on the LAN tournament,
all the stability too. You're just guaranteed to play a few global events a year. That's massive for an org, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you get these invites, money, skins, more like viewership time, like when people see you on the like on the stage, yeah. And also the players, or they also feel like this stable thing that they will play through the whole year.
Yeah.
So of course for these teams it's very nice to be there, while for other teams it may be gonna be harder now, because just because 8 slots always be like by these teams, yeah.
True, but then on the other side, is it really? Because you're saying, well, you have 8 teams that are qualified to PGS, but in the past we had 8 teams in the PCS finals, which was only 16 teams, right? Like, so, maybe getting to PGS isn't really that much harder, because in the past when we had that system, you had to go through an open qualifier 4 times a year to get into a final, and the last stage of the qualifier was like top 24 or 24 teams, top 4 qualify. That's crazy, right?
Right.
So in some sense it's harder. I think it's gonna be a little bit harder for the smaller orgs maybe, but I feel like for the teams in the game, it's maybe gonna be a little bit easier. The thing that obviously matters as well is something that a lot of people don't really think about. But when you talk to orgs, that becomes a thing. Is it's really hard to compete. Let's say you are a smaller org, you're not partnered, and another org gets money from PUBG every month to pay their players. You can't compete with the same salaries. You have no chance, right? You can't pay the same money. So it's going to be hard for the smaller orgs, and a lot of them are probably going to be a little bit upset. So I think it's gonna come down to PUBG said, well, we will reevaluate these partner teams every year, and we'll see if it still makes sense. I don't know how much I believe in that. I feel like it's might just stay the big names. But if they actually do that, I think the system has a lot of really good potential.
Yes. I would say I can't see the future. Like,
Yeah.
especially with PUBG, it's always controversial.
Yeah.
It's this nice word.
It's never easy. It's never simple.
Yeah. After event, I spoke to esport managers of PUBG, and about like the plans on the next few years, and everything I heard from them is kind of interesting, and I really feel like they want to share it with the players, with the organizations. They want to speak about it. They want to make it like to improve. That's the most important thing. They want to improve the esport, and with all this being said, like I just hope that we're gonna have a nice year, and even better next years, and so on. I love to be the part of this game, and even if I wouldn't be like in this partnership program, I don't know, like if I would be or not, but I just want to play this game and still, so yeah.
I think it's what we all want, right? Everyone's on the same boat. We all want PUBG to stay alive and continue to be a thing. So yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I think the one thing that you have to mention as well is they're building this esports arena in Korea for 2024. So they're 100% committed. They are committed to keep this a thing. And I think every time, this is the time of the year as well, where every time all the orgs are concerned and all the teams are concerned, because there's no info about next year yet. But this time, I think everyone can be pretty safe and sort of not worry too much about it. I wanted to ask one more thing. You're on Twisted Minds. How did you end up on Twisted Minds? And was that sort of a PGC thing, or do you think that's going to be a thing for the next few years? I know you probably can't talk about everything, but what you can talk about, I'd be very interested.
I mean, it was planned for PGC and the next year. So we are planning to work together in the next year. I really hope that everything gonna work well for both us and organization. So it's hard to say. Like, we just ended PGC, and we don't even know the plans for like how the next year gonna look like for our team. But yeah, I just hope that everything is gonna be good. That's all.
Sounds good. Sounds nice. Now, in the middle of the year, we'll have PNC. If you had to pick 4 countries from Europe, you have to pick 4 countries that go to PNC. Who would you pick? Last year we had Turkey, Finland, the UK, and Germany.
All right. So
it's not an easy question, I know.
Yeah, it's not an easy question. I mean, UK will definitely go.
They have to.
They won the previous tournament. I would say I think Turkey should have a slot, because it's one of the biggest countries in like our region. So I would say, like, in my opinion, they should go. So what do we have more?
There's a lot of the Nordic countries, right? With a lot of great players. You have to think about CIS as well. I'm not sure if that's going to be a thing or not.
Yeah, like, I heard some things about CIS region. Of course, it's really hard nowadays. We can't even, like, I don't know how to speak on this topic. For sure. Of course, I want to go there. I was so ready for previous PNC. I feel like the roster that we would have it would be one of, like, it would be insane. But unfortunately, we were not able to go, and I really hope to go next year. But I can't say anything about it. Like, I don't know. I don't decide.
Also, even if you look past all the problems, it's hard, right? Because a lot of the really good players are like Ukrainian as well and stuff like that. It's not all Russia, right? So like there's a few different countries, and once you say, well, we make a CIS roster, that's not really fair anymore to the other countries, right? So it's a little bit tricky. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody understands that you can't have a team right now with a Russian flag sort of shooting their enemies on the battlegrounds. It's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
But then that leaves you still with 2 slots, right? We talked about the UK, we talked about Turkey.
So yeah, if we're not like taking my like CS region, we have Nordic countries, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you would mention maybe Croatia. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
who else?
The thing is, I feel like
So
it's really easy to pick regions. You'd be like Scandinavia, and you'd pick like the Balkan region, which is like, you know, like Croatia, Serbia, those kind of countries. But you can't do that, and then it becomes really hard because
I don't know, like how could you like decide? Like there's so much good players from each country. Like like countries like Russia or Turkey, they have like so much players, in just one country, while the Nordic or like Balkan, Scandinavian countries, they have different players from each country, and they somehow should like come together for PNC. How should you decide? I don't know. Like Denmark has a very good players.
But Denmark is also like, they have like 3 like PGC level players, and then they have like 4 more or 6 more that kind of play the PCS level, and then it's kind of over, right? And it's like, do you take such a small country with a few insane players, or do you take a country that has like maybe more average players but way more of them? It's such a hard question. I think that's also why I wanted to talk about it, because I think everyone's always upset about the choices that get made, but they don't realize how hard these choices are. It's also like, do you pick Norway? Do you pick Finland? You probably have to pick Finland because they have like a bigger scene in total.
Of course.
But then it feels like Norway and Denmark, for example, also have like insane players, and a lot of them. So it's really rough. It's really not easy.
Yeah, but as you said, like in all other games, there is always only your like country roster, and if you like have like, for example, different players from different countries in one team, for PNC it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's not fair,
and that's why it's really hard to like to decide which team should go. Maybe if we would have a qualification, it would be like more fair.
I mean, if you would just pick 16 European teams and put them in a qualifier, that would already, I feel like when you have to put 4 teams on the list, it's really hard. But when you have 16, then you can just go and you pick you pick Norway, you pick Denmark, you pick Finland, you know, Germany, France, Turkey. You can put all of them in there, and you can have a really cool tournament that people would love to watch. And then at the end, nobody can ever complain, right? Nobody can ever say, well, oh, we didn't get picked for PNC because they got into the qualifier and they didn't make it. So I think that would have been the best solution. But I think the problem is it's so much work as well to sort of, even when you have a team and you have a country, to figure out how to pick the players. Do you do voting? Do you do, I don't know. It's not that easy. And I think last year there was a lot of issues with that. I think with some of the rosters where the players didn't end up liking each other because they didn't like what was going on in the voting, and there was that whole sort of stuff going on. So it's not that easy. But I'm gonna be excited because I feel like it's also one of the easiest tournaments for people to watch. Like everybody loves watching their country sort of compete. People just love like seeing their nation represent it. So it's gonna be nice. And it's kind of in the middle of the year, right? So it's kind of like it's just in the middle there, like a more fun tournament, not like as serious maybe as the other ones.
True.
So the way this works is I'll ask you a few questions. Some of them are very easy to answer. Some of them are maybe a little bit harder. But the main goal is for you to just go with your first thought, you know?
So it should be brief, quick answer, yeah?
Yeah. Just the main thing for me is not that it's a short answer, but that you sort of just go with what comes to your mind, you know? Because I think that's really interesting sometimes.
Okay, let's try.
All right. We start easy and then it gets a little bit harder.
Okay.
Best gun in the game.
Best gun in the game, M4.
M4. Which map would you add to comp?
Vikendi.
All right. Who do you think is the best teammate you've ever had?
Best teammate I ever had. Oh my god. Alu, maybe? I don't
All
know.
right. It's fine, it doesn't have to be a perfect answer. You just have to sort of.
Yeah, like all of the teammates in my team are the best for me.
Yeah. All
Just for the answer.
What does the perfect day before a tournament, so if your preparation before a tournament, look like for you?
The perfect day before the tournament looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I think to watch our best games ever with my teammates together.
All right. Nice. Who's the most underrated player right now?
Underrated player.
Yeah.
That's hard.
That's hard. I know. I said I was starting easy, but we're not ending easy.
Out of all the players around the world?
Yeah, just someone that comes to your mind that you think is underrated.
Melman.
All right. That's a good answer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What is your best quality as a PUBG player?
I think my brain.
Your brain. Big brain. All right. I think I'll come up with more questions the more episodes we do. For now, I'm gonna leave you alone.
Okay.
These also, it's nice. It's nice to sort of, because none of them are really easy, I feel like. But you just have to bang them out. I think it's nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love it.
Yeah. So this would be the part where you get to ask me a question. What's your question?
So first of all, I want to ask you, how long do you watch PUBG?
I have watched PUBG esports since whenever it started happening. I used to play, which is called PUBG Online, was sort of the first thing we played. Cursed Trials was one of the first.
Wow. Okay.
I think that was late 2017 or something. I think. But basically since it started.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yes.
Tell me the best 3 teams of all time in PUBG sport history, in your honest opinion. Yeah.
Oof. All right.
It should be the team with the same roster. Yeah, this exact
Same roster.
Yeah, for example, Navi roster with Sene, Bestoch, Adozi, and Paka Молодой was one of the best 3 teams of all time. Okay. Yeah, for example. So yeah, that's the question.
G Core, which later became FaZe Clan, with Hexete, Fuzzface, Gemty, and that's embarrassing. Mexi, I think. Yeah, Mexi. Was one of the best rosters for the first few years. Or they were they were by far, by a very far stretch, the best roster at the very start. They have to go on the list. Do I have to rank them? Can I just say 3 teams?
No, just 3 teams.
Okay.
Without rank, yeah.
I think Northern Lights, VP, Twisted Minds, whatever you want to call them,
Thank you.
have to be on that list.
Okay.
That's maybe a little bit biased, but I think that's fine. I think there is no NA teams on the list because they never really popped off internationally consistently. I was thinking about Gen G, but they had a different roster each year, so it's a little bit hard. Who's the third? I feel like it probably has to be, I want to say New Happy, but I think that it's probably still overall, you would probably still go Gen G because it's just been for longer. They won multiple PGCs in a row, PO, Inonix, I think that has to be number 3. I can't even tell you which rosters they won which PGC with, for example. But sort of that core around PO and Inonix is probably the third on the list.
Yeah.
What do you think? I want to hear your answer.
So I would agree with you on us.
Yeah.
On Genji, 100%. As for me, I was ready to hear, maybe not about us, I was ready to hear Genji for 100%, because exactly the same feeling about not like the Genji, like the exact roster, that
Yeah.
won PGC, but they think around Pio and Inonix together, making all this
Yeah.
everything they did is insane.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams and a lot of players tried to learn how Pio playing. So
Yeah.
and a lot of good players that I know. So yeah, exactly. I love it. Yeah, and phase, it's like G core phase. It's
Yeah.
actually history. I also love. I don't
It's
know
so
who.
long ago as well.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I watched some clips sometime, and the game looked so shit back then. Everything was like the observer client, the game, everything was so old and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
what would your third team be?
It's hard.
Because I thought about Navi too, but then I was like, not like right now. Navi feels really good, and they had seasons where they were insane, but I feel like a lot of teams had like one season of PEL, for example, where they were insane or they felt really, really strong. But a lot of these teams were like more over the years for longer time frames, just completely dominant.
I would say if New Happy would have qualified for finals,
Yeah,
and even if they would like place top 5, for example, I would
maybe.
still say they will be like one of the top 3 teams of all time for me,
Yeah,
because they won PGC, they won a lot of tournaments, so they had like a dominance as well,
yeah.
and yeah, so
Same thing for me. It goes for sort of Sonics and United. If they were consistently performing sort of at the top internationally, I think it's worth something that they are dominating their region. It's not that easy to dominate your region, but then you have to also be strong internationally. And
yeah,
I feel like a lot of teams struggle to do that consistently, multiple years in a row, right? I feel like all the teams we named were like multiple years in a row they were insane. And that's so hard to do. And
I would say the next team, like after New Happy, that could be on this list for me, it would be Sonics. If they wouldn't lose both PGC tournaments in a row,
yeah,
if they would play good,
yeah,
maybe they would need even at least top 3 in
yeah,
one of the PGC tournaments to have them on the list. But yeah, of course, like you can't not respect the team like this, because they won the same as us. They won a lot of tournaments in their home
yeah,
region, and they won PGIS. Yes, a lot of people argue about like this event.
yeah.
But Sonics is a great team still, and
Yes.
we'll see how they're gonna manage to play this year. So yeah, that's all.
I sort of agree. I think there's a lot of haters out there as well that sort of say, well, PGIS didn't matter, and ever since then they haven't really done anything internationally. But I think as much as like PGIS still matters, I wouldn't say they were the world champion that year, but I think it's still a massive tournament that they won. And if you look at their NA performances, it's absolutely insane. And it's not nothing. It's not everything, like dominating your own region, like I said, but it's not nothing. But yeah, I think like we said, multiple performances consistently internationally is kind of what matters. And I think you can give yourself a little pat on the shoulder as well. I think you guys have been incredibly consistent. I feel like you are probably the most consistent team in PUBG. Do you think? I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say.
You had a terrible PCS 7, and you still somehow ended up like third or something at the end. It was like
second.
Yeah, it felt like you guys weren't like playing your own game. You didn't really exist, and then suddenly at the end you were like slowly creeping up, and you got second. I don't know. It's scary, man. It's fun to watch.
I would call our team the best of all time only if we would win PGC.
Yeah.
So until we not win it, I can say that we are the most consistent of all time, but we need to win PGC, and then I can say we like ended this game. Yeah, we have done it all. So yeah.
Yes, we finished PUBG.
Yeah, some kind of
Maybe next year.
We'll see.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Sasha. It's been such a pleasure. It's been really fun. Yeah, I'm excited to finish up this podcast. I'm excited to bring it out. I'll ask James some of your questions. I'll make sure of that.
Let's go.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for the invite. It was actually absolutely amazing. I love it.
Nice. All right, cool. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, just like that, we are done with episode number 1. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, wherever you are enjoying this podcast. And yeah, it's been super fun. It's super nice to sit down with some of the most interesting people out of the PUBG scene and chat a little bit about the game and the scene and what's going on. If there's anything that you want to see on this podcast, if there's anything you want to see talked about, if there's any questions you want to have asked, if there's any players you want to have on the podcast, feel free to let me know in the comments. What's up, guys? Post-production Kovo here for a second. I just forgot to say that I have made a channel in my Discord with podcast discussion and suggestions. So if you have anything that you want to see on the podcast, anything you liked or didn't, you can let me know there. Link will be in the description. And if you can't find it there, you'll always find it on my Twitch channel, !Discord. If you liked it, let me know with a comment, a like, a review, whatever you feel is necessary. And if you want to support this, there is always my Patreon. I've set that up for people that want to support my content. I will never do any paid content, anything behind a paywall. But if people want to support, the links will be in the description. And yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out and sticking all the way through to the end. Next episode will come out sometime towards the end of January. And I hope I'll see you guys there.